Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Freres Heureux, hosted by 11-time Tony Award nominees, the Happy Brothers. I'm Fraser.
And I'm Ewan.
And we're not really Tony Award nominees.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I mean, if you're talking about awards handed out by some dude named Tony.
There was that bloke.
There was that bloke, Tony.
On the corner. And he was like, have this.
And it was a
statue of a naked man.
Yeah.
And he handed it out.
Very anatomically correct naked man.
It was very anatomically correct.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I didn't enjoy that at all.
No.
But the Tony Award.
Buff, though.
Yeah, all right. We're back. As ever, giving our cheeky little retrospective of the greatest sitcom of all time.
Mm-hmm.
We are on disc 3 of season 8, working our way through. We've had a little bit of a dip in quality, would you say?
Yeah.
Overall in season 8.
I stand by Frasier being the greatest sitcom ever, but right now it does not feel like it. I gotta be honest.
Yeah. I'm struggling because there's some decent episodes in season 8. There's some I quite like. There's a couple in this disc upcoming that I really like as well. Mm-hmm. But it then hits you with an episode that is just so bad that you're like, Yeah. And it's so inconsistent at the moment. It annoys me. I think it does get back on track. Middle of season 9, we start to get a bit more consistency, and there's not as many great episodes, but there's not as many like shockingly poor either.
Yeah,
it kind of hits that middle ground quite nicely and keeps that going for a wee while. And then Gertrude.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting.
Yeah, God,
waiting for the Gertrude train to come
into
into the station.
Yeah.
Hurricane Gertrude. Yeah. Shall we get stuck in? I don't think we've got anything to talk about this week.
No, I don't think so.
Other than just your week. How are you? I guess
I'm doing all right.
Yeah,
it's spooky season.
It is spooky season,
and that's exciting.
That is exciting.
It's my favorite time of year.
It's everyone's favorite time of year, unless you're wrong.
Yeah,
I guess.
People who prefer summer, just weird. I'm glad summer's over.
I like the heat. If we could have a hot Halloween.
Halloween. Every Halloween's hot Halloween for me, baby.
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Okay.
I'm done
that's
for
fine.
today. Let's just call it a day, please.
No.
No. Right. Okay. Yes. Hot Halloween. We've got a nice little campaign you're going to be running this month. I'm quite excited for.
Yes.
You've given me a cheeky heads up on what's to come.
By the time this episode comes out, we'll be a few days into my "What If Frasier Was Horror Movies" on Twitter. Go and check that out.
I'm excited for that. Combining two of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Frasier and spooky season. Yeah. Can't wait. Disc 3? Should we do disc 3?
Let's just get started.
Let's just do it. Let's get stuck in.
Dive right in here.
Sliding Frasiers. First episode on the disc. Multiversal Frasier episode.
Yep.
Perhaps. Multiverse confirmed.
Very interesting.
Obviously taking inspiration from Sliding Doors. The 90s? Earlier 90s?
Yeah.
Movie.
Maybe.
With, I think, Gwyneth Paltrow.
And I want to say John Hannah. I don't think I've seen it.
I've not seen it either.
I think it's the two of them.
The plot's very well known. Basically, that it's like a romance, and she makes a decision, and it's the plot kind of splits in two. Yeah. One half follows her if she made the decision, and one half follows if she doesn't.
Isn't it like she misses a train? I thought that was where Sliding Doors came from.
Maybe, I guess.
I've not seen it, but there you go.
Yeah, Sliding Doors on the train. Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, it could be anyone.
Sliding Frasiers is, very similar plot. Frasier makes a decision between a sweater or a suit to go on a little speed dating event, and one plot follows him meeting a lovely lady named Monica. After quite literally bumping into her, she like tackles him to the ground. And has to take him to the hospital and stuff. And the other path is what I've dubbed the loner's path.
The loner's path.
Where he goes to the speed date, gets thoroughly depressed, and then just sulks for the rest of the week. It doesn't help that Daphne and Niles are starting to get into the swing of their relationship as well.
Yeah.
So they're all lovey-dovey. Niles has got his t-shirt with him and Daphne on it.
Yeah.
Big love heart. It's pretty cringy stuff, but they're happy.
They are happy.
It's hard to criticize too badly.
It's only been a month, maybe 2 months in universe time since
that's true.
Since they got together, and since Mel and Donnie have been completely out of the picture, and they've actually been able to go off and enjoy their relationship.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. But yeah, but
I mean, I wouldn't go about flaunting it like that, and the whole public displays of affection thing.
I know, but they've been waiting for what, 7 years, or at least Niles has been waiting 7 years for this. It's hard to blame him for being so excited about it all.
You gotta be happy for him.
Yeah, but Frasier's not happy for it. Well, I mean, he is, but he's also like jealous, I guess.
Yeah.
And struggling a bit to take that. The sliding Frasiers aspect of the plot's actually quite unique. I quite like it that they do this kind of meta multiversal.
Yeah, it's definitely
plot.
not something that we see a lot of.
Yeah, it's not, a little bit.
It's very out there for a sitcom like Frasier.
Yeah. Which I think is quite. I kind of like it. It's quite different.
I was thinking about it because I've recently been rewatching Scrubs, and there's an episode of Scrubs which is very, very, very similar. The kind of like minor thing causes big, huge difference, and you see the same plot unfold twice, but it's slightly different each time. And I think Scrubs just does it so much better.
Really?
That it kind of makes this episode just fall flat. Every time I look at it, I'm like, it's just like
a show. I mean, a show like Scrubs has that kind of wacky undertone vibe to it.
Yeah, it's not the traditional 3-camera sitcom.
Yeah,
it's not like as straightforward. It's all like fantasies, and it's all weird humor.
They get away with it a little bit more.
Which I think it's maybe just the fact that they're able to really dive into it and go a bit weirder with it.
Yeah,
that really helps them. Whereas Frasier, they're trying to, I don't know if they're necessarily trying to just do a typical Frasier episode, but with this premise holding it all together, and it kind of doesn't work.
I mean, you could, if you look at it that way, both plots you could quite easily see in a single episode of Frasier.
Yeah.
Frasier goes on a speed date, gets depressed, or Frasier meets a woman and is totally overbearing and ruins his chances with her. They're both individual plots by themselves. Yep. So I kind of like that they've done it this way and split it and have them both in tangent with this kind of more unique premise. And it's a funny episode as well.
Yeah, it has a few good jokes in it.
The Daphne and Niles stuff I always enjoy because it's so cringy, but it's so funny. And seeing like Martin and Frasier's reaction to it all, I love it. I think it's great. And then Monica as well is a really great little guest character. Charlotte Ross,
yeah,
the actor who plays her. She just kind of cuts Frasier down to size.
She does
by the end of it.
I do like the. I do kind of enjoy that. It's quite cathartic seeing Frasier just getting completely humiliated when he's acting like an ass. But also I feel you feel bad for her because it's got to be so embarrassing. Like I would really hate if I'd been dating someone for like a week,
a couple of weeks, if that.
And they started doing that, like singing to me in public.
One thing that I didn't quite, and I know it's part of the premise, so I'm not sure how I really missed it, but I didn't really consider the fact that Frasier's trying to one-up Daphne and Niles in this episode.
I hadn't thought of that either.
Yeah. So when he's throughout the episode on that half of the plot, on Monica's path of the plot, he's buying her gifts, he's sending her chocolates, he hired a string quartet to play outside her window.
Yeah.
All this really extreme stuff, and then he sings for the Valentine's ball at the end of the episode. It's all very extreme, but I always thought it was just Frasier being like desperate. He was just he'd not been in a date in a while, and he was trying to totally overdo it. But then rewatching it now, I was like, actually, he's just trying to one-up Niles. He's trying to get ahead of them in terms of the lovey-dovey stuff.
That does make a lot of sense. I never thought about it like that either.
Yeah, I didn't really consider it. But I guess that must be part of the point and why he goes so extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Poor Monica.
Well, I mean, you say that. So one thing that this episode does that I don't really know if there's not really other examples that jump to mind, but it's the idea of like no matter which alternate paths you might take in the universe, that some things are like destined to be, and it's the fact that the guy. There's a guy at Cafe Nervosa that bumps into Monica.
Yeah.
In the universe where Frasier does go to the speed date, and then those two start dating, and they're together at the same event at the end. But then also in the one where Frasier does date Monica, the two of them still meet. Yeah. Because he was dating Roz.
Did he go out with Roz? Yeah, he went out with Roz. Yeah.
And then they wind up. Well, it's implied that they wind up together anyway. And I like that. I like the little. It's just two characters that we barely meet. But this, like, they're always going to end up together. Like, that kind of fate is cute.
He seems like a pretty charming guy as well.
Yeah.
He seems pretty nice, very attractive. Just seems like a chill dude.
Yeah.
And one thing I don't like, though, and you were saying that, like, I do like how they come together, especially with Frasier at the end of the episode, after the ball, both instances of it, and it ends in disaster either way.
Yeah.
He kind of gets in the car and the two paths combine when he's listening to a rerun of himself on the radio. Bit narcissistic, but what can you do? And I like that he comes together, kind of taking his own advice almost, or he's listening to his own advice. But then on the rerun, he hears, is it a chef at one of the local?
I think so.
Bakeries
like
or local diners,
yeah.
Calls in and says, "Oh, I'm very attracted to you. If you're ever nearby, come and say hi," kind of thing. And then it's implied that he drives off to go and meet one of his callers. Surely that's like a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Like, if someone calls into you for advice as a psychiatrist,
I don't even know if it is someone that calls in for advice. I think it's maybe just a fan, which is,
I suppose that's
certainly bad in a different way.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if you would necessarily say it's bad. I think it's certainly an iffy thing. You know, a celebrity starting a relationship with a fan is always going to be a bit.
I have weird feelings about that.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a line that needs to be drawn, but at the same time, when you're as popular, in this instance, when you're as popular as Dr. Frasier Crane, the radio host, everyone's heard of you.
Yeah.
And anyone who listens to the show and doesn't hate it could be considered a fan.
Yeah.
So should he just not date anyone who's heard of him and listened to his show?
Yeah. I think it's, if it were to be someone that he met outside of the show, unrelated to the show, he just met someone at a dinner party or whatever, and she says, "Oh, I'm a big fan of yours," and they get to know each other on a personal level, and then they start dating, that wouldn't be an issue. But the idea of when someone who calls in saying, "I'm a big fan, come and meet me," if he were to then go and do that, it's a bit
iffy.
It's definitely a bit iffy.
I'm not saying it's totally out of line,
yeah,
because they're both clearly interested, but it's definitely. It's more than I would be comfortable with, I think.
Yeah. That's Bernadette Peters, by the way. Rachel is the caller is
Bernadette
voiced by
Peters.
Bernadette Peters, who's an actress.
Don't recognize the name.
You might recognize her. At least she has quite a, I don't want to say a distinct look. I always worry that if I say that, it comes across as rude. She's a very attractive woman. I just think she like very curly hair, and she like has a she has a look about her. If you look up Bernadette Peters, you may well recognize her.
Okay. How do you like this episode?
Not very much.
Not very much.
To be honest, I'm not big on it.
Okay.
I think a lot of the jokes don't really work. I think there's a lot more that they could have done with the idea of like seeing the same day from different angles. There are lots of different ways that they could have done it that could have made it a lot funnier, rather than just Frasier fails romantically in two different ways that are pretty much unrelated.
He's a loser in every universe.
He is. And like it's not terrible. It still has some bits that I enjoy, but yeah. So it's a 2 for me.
Okay. I quite like it.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty decent. And I like what they do. I know what you mean. They could do a bit more with it or something a bit different. But I like all the little bits and pieces, like when Frasier's in a good mood, he comes home and Martin says, he's talking about his TV show and the phone rings and he's like, oh, it's like, was it Montgomery Cliff is calling me? And he's like, oh, say hi to him for me. And then when he's in a bad mood, he says like, oh yeah, that's very funny, Dad, and kind of waves him off. Mm-hmm. And I like those differences. But then when he's in a bad mood, he manages to save Niles from Daphne's cooking.
Yeah.
Is it the cumin he eats, but he's got an allergy to? And I like all these little things that just kind of that make an episode like this, where you're comparing two different timelines. So yeah, there are definitely other shows that I think have done it better. The one that comes to mind is Community.
Oh yeah,
with the
was it remedial chaos theory?
The dice,
yeah,
and splitting off into 6 different timelines. I really like that. Like that's so well written and cleverly done.
Yeah. The source of the Donald Glover walks into a burning room holding pizzas.
The meme,
gif.
Yeah. But I think this one does pretty well, especially for its time as well. I think it's a little bit ahead of the curve with its uniqueness. Mm-hmm. So I give it a 4. Got 4 cups out of 5.
Yeah.
I think it starts off the disc pretty strong. Any other guest callers other than Bernadette Peters?
Interesting. No. Bernadette Peters is the only guest caller right at the very end.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, Charlotte Ross plays Monica. Mm-hmm. Recently, she was in Arrow.
Was she?
Yeah, she's so Felicity Smoke, who's like the main character's love interest. I think it's her mother.
Oh. She's a cutie.
I don't think I got that far into the show to see her, but there you go. Okay. She's in that. She was in Days of Our Lives before she was in Frasier. I think that was kind of what kicked her off as an actress. But she's been in various things. She's still going. Yeah,
she's good in this. She's a good guest star. Yeah. I love her dress at the ball. It's really gorgeous. It's like a stunning blue, long ball gown.
Yeah,
it's very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here we go. The episode we've been waiting for. Well, one of 2, I guess.
Yeah.
This is the outgoing, and then the incoming is next week.
Yeah.
Hungry Heart,
mm-hmm.
where Daphne finally admits that she's had a bit of an issue with her weight gain recently. It's quite notable for being a bit more serious in tone. I think both this episode, where she leaves for a few episodes, as an audience, we know that it's because Jane Leaves went away to give birth.
Yeah.
She was pregnant at the time. In show, it's Daphne goes off to a quote-unquote spa.
Yeah.
Or fat camp, as everyone keeps calling it. For, I think, the rest of this disc. So 4 episodes?
4 episodes.
4 episodes. And I did check the episode last week when she wasn't in.
Mm-hmm.
The production code is during this period.
Oh, okay.
So they did film it.
So they would have filmed it
during the time she was away.
Interesting.
I should check. So she's away for the next 4 episodes. And it is a bit more serious, but they do lay on the jokes quite thick as well, I think, to kind of alleviate how depressing it would have been otherwise.
Yeah.
And I don't know how well these kind of jokes would sit these days. There's some that are quite genuinely funny and like clever, and then there are some that are kind of just poking at the fun that she's gained weight.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult line to tread in a situation like this.
There are some, I think the more kind of spoken word, like dialogue jokes tend to be quite funny. I don't think they're like actively writing in jokes where the characters are making fun of Daphne for being fat, but there are lots of bits like her hiding chocolates around the apartment and stuff that just feels a bit unnecessary. It just feels a bit mean. Even
the opening of the episode, it's literally her like stuffing her face right before she goes out for dinner with Niles and makes a comment like, oh yeah, but if I don't have a snack now, then I'll just gorge myself over dinner. And it's kind of like, these little things aren't really necessary. We don't need these little extra bits to see that she is visibly gaining weight and something's going on. But
or the joke about her getting the other table's food
in a
doggy bag.
I actually think that one's quite funny. It's like subversion of expectations.
Yeah.
They come home with a doggy bag and you think, oh, they've brought food home, and then there's the joke that says, I don't know why the waiter was looked so annoyed at me. The other table had barely touched their pork chop. It's quite funny. Like, it's clever. Like, those kind of jokes are, as you say, like the dialogue driven jokes or the wordplay or things like that, they are clever and they are funny.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a difficult line you don't want to cross too far into just poking fun at someone. I can only imagine how Jane Leeves must have felt at this point as well. Like, it's probably quite a tough run of episodes for her to film and to do physically, because she clearly gained weight as well as being pregnant.
Yeah.
I don't know whose decision that was, if she committed to it, if she was advised to, or what happened. But,
I don't know.
And also, I don't know how long the production stopped in between.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because, she gets right back down to size.
I know that they filmed the last episode on this disc, It Takes Two to Tangle, very shortly after she gave birth.
Okay.
Because there's a joke about how much weight she had lost so far was the weight of the baby.
Oh, really?
That was like a little in-joke.
Oh, that's quite funny.
So that must have been filmed pretty much, or like that scene must have been filmed pretty shortly after she had given birth.
That's fair enough. Okay. So the main plot of this episode, as we've said, is that Daphne accepts her weight gain and decides to do something about it. It's different to the last episode. There are kind of two plots here, and it's less of like a primary plot and a secondary plot. It is kind of two of them running in tandem. Yeah. Which is one we don't really see as often. We usually see primary and secondary.
Yeah.
I think both are done pretty well. I think both get adequate presence in the episode.
Yeah. You can't really say that one is bigger than the other. They're both a pretty well split.
Yeah, 50-50. They both tie off. So yeah, Daphne and Niles, they go out for dinner and then come home, and Daphne trips over one of Eddie's dog toys and sprains her ankle, and Niles can't lift her up. She is too heavy to be lifted up. So Frasier and Martin, they both come home and manage to help her up.
Yeah.
This scene is hilarious. I'm sorry if it does cross certain lines in terms of humor, but I absolutely love this scene. I think it's so hilarious. The physical comedy, the dialogue, the acting of Martin when he comes in and thinks that Eddie's underneath Daphne.
Yeah.
The little joke when he Daphne, I just thought of something. It took 3 cranes to lift you. And then his little giggle and kind of turning away in horror when he sees her face is just, it's perfect. It's so funny.
It is very well done.
And
I like the joke of Niles saying like, "Oh, you're not heavy at all. I can lift you just fine. Now I need to make some kind of fulcrum."
Yeah, and
like leverages his feet under her and balances.
Or like after he gets underneath and is like, maybe if I threw a rope over that beam. And it's so just well done, builds up, and we get Daphne kind of accepting that okay, she realizes she's put weight on, and Niles, being the lovely boyfriend that he is, sort of says, look, I love you no matter what, but if you're unhappy, I'll help you lose weight, we'll do it together, we'll get fit and everything, which is really nice to see. Unfortunately she's struggling a bit more than I think even she realized, and even though they start to exercise and lose weight and everything, she's hiding chocolates around the house and scoffing eclairs out of Frasier's ornaments and everything. Yeah. And at the end, we kind of realize, no, she's actually struggling like mentally rather than just eating a bit much. It's more like she's going through something. Mm-hmm. So gets shipped away to a special spa. And that's the end of Daphne for 4 episodes. 5, I guess, if you include the one last episode, but not really because it was filmed. And aside that, we have our first Kenny-centric episode?
I guess, yeah.
If you call it Kenny-centric, I guess.
This is the most we have seen of Kenny.
Yeah.
Really. We do have a few more episodes where we get him quite central.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Probably no more than this, but also kind of a few to the same level.
Yeah. I really love Kenny. I think he's so fantastic. I think he's such a great, just sort of kind, lovable, like bumbling character. It's just he just seems like he'd be a really good guy to just hang out with. But he's got himself into a bit of a sticky patch. Met a lady named Janice at a local bar and agreed to go on a date with her, even though he's married with young children. Yeah. And Frasier, trying to diffuse the situation, goes down to confront Janice and says, look, Kenny's married and blah, blah, blah. But it turns out that Janice has already been scared away by Kenny's wife. Yeah. Who's not named.
Not named. She's just Kenny's wife.
Played by Ileana Douglas.
Yep.
Who's been in lots of things. Cape Fear, which I watched for the first time recently. Yeah. It's not a fun role for her. No. But she's very good in it.
Yeah, I can imagine Cape Fear is a bit of a grim film.
Yeah, it's. I can't watch it without thinking of the episode of The Simpsons. No. So it's
just the music. It's just the fact that they always use the Cape Fear music for Sideshow Bob.
It's a little tie-in for Frasier.
For Frasier, because that was Kelsey Grammer.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
But no, she's really great in this as well. And she's been in quite a few sort of guest roles and things over the years, various sitcoms and whatnot. She's always very good. And yeah, she's confronted Janice first and taken her space at the table, waiting for Kenny. But then Frasier shows up and he just makes it so much worse, saying like, oh, Kenny can't control himself around you and blah, blah, blah. And it's just, you're like, shut up.
Yeah.
And then he tries to hit on Janice himself, not realizing he's hitting on Kenny's wife, and the two of them end up going for a date. And then Kenny shows up, and it's just classic Frasier.
It is.
This is farce, right? This is stepped into farce territory.
I would definitely say this is a farce. It's like the mistaken identities, the double meanings, the different characters think different things are going on. And it works. It works really well.
It works well. I think it's really good. I think it's really clever. In no small part due to just Kenny. Is it Tom McLaughlin? Is that his name?
No, it's Tom Mix something. I'm terrible. I can't remember.
I can remember his second name. It's just so good, and his whole sort of comedic timing for all these jokes, and he's sitting in Frasier's bedroom getting upset, and he like going through all these different emotions. It's just great to watch. And then Frasier obviously finally realizes that it is Kenny's wife that he's on a date with, manages to clear her away, and it's almost done until Kenny notices that his wife's handbag's still on the table.
That's my wife's purse.
Yeah, that is what he says.
That's what he says.
And thankfully, Roz has popped in wearing her new... what's it called?
I can't remember. It's the cologne with all the endorphins.
The cologne with pheromones.
Pheromones.
For men that she's going to wear out to the club. And she steps out of the bathroom and Frasier pretends he's on a date with her and kisses her to shut her up before she realizes that it's not her purse. Which you get this great little back and forth, and then Roz retreats to the bathroom when Kenny leaves. And I love the final line in the episode. Well, after all that, we get the little conclusion with Daphne realizing that she needs proper help. So that's all concluded. And then Roz steps out of the bathroom and Frasier tries to apologize and explain the situation. And she's like, no, it's okay. It's not your fault. I don't blame you. I blame the people at Mantastic.
Mantastic.
And I just love that name for a female perfume brand.
Yeah.
Mantastic. And what a mantastic episode this is.
It's pretty good.
I really love this episode.
Yeah.
I actually I think it's one of the best in the season. I think it's got everything that we love about Frasier kind of packaged in nicely. We've got the nice farce on one side. We've got the more serious tone with Daphne's weight gain, and then we've also got the fun little dialogue and humor aspects as well, just scattered throughout. And I think it just makes for a really good episode, and that's why I'm giving it my first 5 cupper of the season.
First 5 cupper of the season.
I think
That's something.
I'm pretty sure. I don't think we've had any 5 cuppers yet.
I don't think so. I don't think I've given any 5s.
You've definitely not. I don't
No.
think I have.
I don't know if I'm going to.
Oh no,
I'll be
we need at
honest,
least
I'm not.
one. At
Um,
least one.
no.
So yeah,
So this is, for me, this is a 3.
only a 3.
It's a little bit it's pretty strong. I just don't think I find it quite as funny as you do. I think some of the jokes are good, but also they're not amazing. I don't know. It's just nah.
Nah. Okay, that's fine.
It's fine.
I mean,
It's fine. It's an alright one.
but there's so many good jokes. When Niles brings over the truffles.
There's
chocolate truffle praline nougat bombs, and they're jumbos. And then Martin turns around and says oh well, I knew they weren't for us.
Yeah.
It's that little dialogue, the little snappy little bits like that that I just love. They're so funny, even if I have to look past the fact that they're at the expense of a larger person.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's getting help.
She is
the help
getting
that she needs.
Yeah.
And she'll be back in a few episodes. I feel like we do miss Daphne in the next few episodes.
Yeah.
I think it is noticeable that she is absent from them. Even though the plot still works without her in them, I still feel like her presence, or her lack of presence there, is really noticeable.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jane leaves, heart of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we got Hooping Cranes next.
Hooping Cranes.
Yeah, another great episode
This is a
in
good
my
episode.
opinion.
This is
I
a good
really like this one. So Niles obviously it's not really implied that he's struggling. He's very supportive, but he is missing Daphne, so he's going out for I think a concert with Frasier, opera or something. They're doing something. They're having a boys' night.
I think this is when they're going out to the Mongolian throat singers.
Is it?
I think so.
Oh, maybe.
Because there's a joke. Oh no, it must not be. No, it's not.
No, the Mongolian throat singer is the one.
That's the one when they've also got tickets
9.
for Billy Joel
and Eddie Needs Walks
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's the joke about Niles still thinks that they're going to the concert, and
Yes.
Martin thinks they're all going to the
Yes.
basketball, and he says "Oh, I want to go early so I can see the players warming up."
Yeah.
And it's
Me too.
Yeah.
So and Frasier's gotten tickets from a fan or a listener who he helped for the Sonics, the basketball, and he offers them to Martin. Martin immediately assumes that Frasier's taking him rather than just giving him the tickets.
Yeah.
So they all change their plans to go out to the basketball game, and after a bit of seat swapping madness and lip balm and whatever else, Niles gets picked for the half-court shot, which I presume is a thing.
Yeah.
I've seen it before, but it's just like halftime entertainment. They get someone from the crowds to try and make a half-court shot. And nobody makes the shot, but of course, Niles, being the least athletically inclined person probably in the whole audience, makes the shot.
Yeah.
He launches the ball and it goes in. In this wonderful slow motion sort of montagey scene of him doing it.
And that was all done in one shot. There was actually David Hyde Pierce.
Did he actually throw it?
He actually did.
I wonder how many takes they did.
I was about to ask you if you could guess, because I know how many takes it was.
Oh, did you ask?
I was interested to see if you could maybe...
That's fine. I've got a question for you as well. So, okay.
Lovely.
How many takes they took? I'm presuming it wasn't the first take.
It wasn't.
Because that would be...
That would have been...
Pretty
that would have been
something. I'm going to go maybe... 18?
No, a bit more than that.
Okay.
27.
Okay, 20. Yeah, all right.
It's still not a lot. It's probably
27's not bad.
I probably would take me a lot more than that.
There's a scene in Alien Resurrection. Funnily, I know this is a bit of a tangent, right? But funnily enough, is another basketball
scene. Oh my god!
And it's
that movie is terrible.
Yes, it is an awful movie. But Sigourney Weaver insisted that she wanted to take the shot herself, so they're practicing the shot all day, filming every single one, and they finally get the shot. And Ron Perlman, who's also in the shot, almost blew it because he was so happy for Sigourney Weaver. He broke character and was going to congratulate her before realizing he's still on camera. And sorry, it's not relevant to Frasier at all, but I love that. I love that little story that we have someone trying to make this shot for so long, and then everyone else in the scene has the potential to ruin it because they're too excited. It's really funny. But no, good for David Hyde Pierce actually making the shot. Now, the song that plays during, right? Very famous, used in every single sports documentary ever made, all the sports films, right? I'll give you a hint if you don't know, but I want you to tell me which I think it's basketball team it's associated with.
Oh, I think I know this actually.
Do you?
I do think I know. I want to say I'm probably going to look like a complete idiot if I get this wrong, because this might not even be the basketball team, but this is the team that jumped into my head. Is it the Chicago Bulls?
It is the Chicago Bulls.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Get in.
Okay.
Sports questions.
Yeah, I didn't.
I never do well
think
with
you'd get
sports
that,
questions.
but okay.
I don't even know where that came from.
Do you know the name of the song?
I might do, because I did see it on IMDb.
Oh my god!
I'm
See if you get
sure
this right.
I'm pretty sure it slipped from my head. I want to say, for some reason, it's called Osiris. That's not right, is it? Is it something like that?
You're so close.
Is it something like that?
Yeah.
That's the thing that's in my head, and the band. It's like it's not the Dave Matthews Band, but it's something. It's like the guy's name band.
You are so close.
Yeah, I can't actually remember what it's called.
It's Sirius.
All right.
By the Alan Parsons Project.
Ah, there you go.
You were so close.
I was
there.
like, it's like for some reason I just yeah.
Okay. I think the Chicago Bulls were basketball.
Well,
I'm pretty sure.
I was going to say football, but it's not. I don't know. I don't follow sports.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, right, fine. Well, you've shown me right up there, haven't you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I thought I was going to get you with something. After you made me look like an ass with the Seattle Twin Cities.
That's a difficult question. I was specifically trying to stump you.
I know. No, it's a really great scene. I love it.
It is a lot of fun.
It's really
and the music
funny.
and all the cheerleaders
all
running
the cheerleaders and him getting all excited and everything. And then when they go back to the apartment, Martin's all excited for him and like, and he's walking up this behind the couch, and he goes to the coat rack, and he puts his coat on the rack, and it's there, and he's cheering for everything. And of course, Niles, when he realizes that Martin's quite excited by it, starts to milk it quite a bit. Initially, he's like, "Oh, it was all luck. It was just a complete chance that I made that shot." And excuse me, I can't judge him too harshly, honestly, because he's probably not that interested by it all. He does probably think it is just chance, but when he sees that other people are excited by it, he would want to lean into it a bit more.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anyone any harm, except for Frasier, obviously, who is just seething with jealousy and completely ruins it for Niles as well by the end of the episode. Yeah. He challenges Niles to a match when they're down at McGinty's, one of the little basketball things, arcade machines, and they both completely embarrassed each other. But because Niles embarrassed himself, it just his cred has just plummeted. And I feel really sorry for him because he wasn't doing any harm. He was enjoying a bit of fame and a bit of recognition for doing even if it was luck, it's still bloody impressive. So I really hate Frasier in this episode. Yeah, I think it's properly awful what he does. And I even marked it down because of that. Like that scene just really bothers me because he's so bitter and jealous.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I think we've had plenty of episodes of like the kind of sibling rivalry that have been done a lot better, and this episode just sort of ruins it a bit. I mean, you need to have a bit of conflict, I guess, in it somewhere.
Yeah,
it's just so frustrating.
It is. It's really sad. I feel so sorry for Niles here. And actually, this begins a string of a few episodes where Frasier's worse than usual in his behaviour. So, yeah, I don't like that at all. We get a good scene with Roz and Jean-Pierre. I think that's a really, really well-written scene. Roz is dating a Frenchman named Jean-Pierre who doesn't speak much English and decides after a few weeks that she wants to break up with him. And Frasier is the only one that she knows who speaks French, so it hires him to break up with him for her, and the two of them have a completely unrelated conversation in French after he realizes that she wants to break up with him. Yeah, and it's wonderful. It's so funny. The two of them chatting about where to get a good steak and can you smoke on the patio and whatnot. Yeah. It's brilliant. It's so good, and him pretending to act sad when they say goodbye. I love it. I think it's really it's an excellent little scene. It's not even like a B plot. It's just it's just one scene. Yeah, I love it. How did you rank the overall episode?
So I gave it a 4.
Excellent.
Because I think it's close to being a 5. It is literally just the fact that Frasier... This is another one of those episodes that kind of suffers from the show being called Frasier. Yeah. And like they need to have him be very central. And it just brings it all down a little bit. Maybe if this was a little bit... I mean, this is for obvious reasons quite similar to Head Game, which basically doesn't have Frasier in it at all, where Niles and Reggie McLemore start, therapizing, and it I guess similar to that. Maybe it would have been a little bit better if Frasier had been not in it as much, or kind of in a similar way, sort of set the episode up and then everyone else carries it.
Yeah.
And then it was maybe a bit more of Niles having more of a conflict of people giving him all this praise for something that he wasn't really achieving or hadn't really achieved.
Yeah.
But then it just would have been an exact repeat of Head Game.
I suppose that would be pretty similar. Yeah.
So
they still could have done better than Frasier is jealous and ruins it for everyone.
Yeah.
Including himself.
Yeah. I think the setup's good. I think a lot of the humor is really good. Excuse me. I think a lot of the performances are great. It's literally just like that little bit of structure is lacking, tying it all together. So it's not quite a 5.
Yeah, no, I agree almost exactly. I did write down 5 initially when I got about halfway through the episode, and then I remembered that end scene at the bar and just how insufferable Frasier is, and I'm like, I really hate it. It just irks me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did mark it down. We could be getting so many more cups, ranks.
We could.
What are we calling them? We still calling them cups?
Yeah, we're still calling them
Cups of coffee. If it wasn't for Frasier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh well. The next episode is pretty similar, I think, in terms of Frasier ruining it for everyone.
Yeah.
Docu.Drama, however you actually say it.
Yeah.
It's all about Roz branching off by herself and producing a documentary on space. Pretty exciting. Didn't know she really had that much of an interest in space, but good for her.
Yeah.
I like to see Roz achieving and pushing her career further. It's always nice. And she deliberately wants to exclude Frasier from it because she knows him and knows that he can't handle someone else taking control. And she's worried that it'll kind of get in the way of things. So reluctantly, she hires him as the narrator on the project. And unsurprisingly, he does just get in the way and try and take over, basically.
Yeah.
And then when she calls him out on it, he throws a fit, tosses the toys out the pram, and goes to try and get revenge on her. And then he totally gaslights her and makes her think that it's her fault for not including him.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's so bad.
Yeah.
He even says that he's not hiding it. It's not like he's doing it unintentionally. He explicitly says I'm going off to my room to think of a plot to get back at that Roz for excluding me. And it's let it go, man.
Yeah.
What's your problem? It's really, he's just nasty in this episode. And I hate that the last scene with the two of them as well. Because he kind of twists her arm and guilts her into apologizing to him.
Yeah.
And it's it's not her fault. What you on about? You madman. It's just evil in this episode. I mean, that's the episode. It's just him being an ass. We got a nice guest star.
Yeah.
We get John Glenn, the astronaut. What's the deal with the Tang thing? Everyone makes a joke about that. I don't know what it's all about. Is it a drink?
Yes. Tang is like Kool-Aid.
Right.
Kind of. So it's like a powder that you dilute in water. But it's like orange flavor, which is where the name came from.
Okay.
And when starting with the mission that John Glenn was on, when they started sending Americans into space, they used that as one of the primary things that got sent up as a food stuff. Okay. Because it wasn't had to be kept as a liquid. It was like a powder that they could just sort of put in water. And that it just became known as the thing that astronauts drink, because it was this brand of stuff that NASA sent up into space for the...
Oh, is it all? I thought it was specifically John Glenn. I thought it was him that...
Well, I think it's just because it's started with him.
With him, right, okay.
But it was just astronauts in general were given it. Okay. And it the brand just became associated with that.
Yeah, I've never looked it up. I've always I always assumed it was just some kind of drink that they all John Glenn sponsored or something like that. I never bothered to look it up, and I always was I wonder what that's all about. Why are they all making jokes? I like that he gets the guest stars himself.
Yep.
We have a few instances of that. We have we'll have Bill Gates later on.
Bill Gates at one point. We get Larry King earlier on.
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil as himself is funny.
So we've got a few kind of...
Wolfgang Puck, as we mentioned last week.
Was he himself?
He appears as himself. Well, I don't know if they explicitly say that it is himself. It's a bit weird that it is himself, but that's what he's credited as.
Is it? All right, okay. Yeah, but I like when you get guest stars with them. I like when they play exaggerated versions of themselves. And John Glenn doing the speech about the aliens.
Talking about how he sees aliens. And
really funny.
that is good.
Niles and Martin as well, entering their kite competition. It's a pretty dull side plot, to be honest. It really doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't add much.
It leads to a little bit of physical comedy with David Hyde Pierce getting pulled out on the balcony by the kite, and other than that, it's really there's nothing to it. It's just filler. And I think this was probably out of the 4, I think this episode suffers the most from missing Daphne, because I think they could have done something more with her there.
Yeah.
There's an episode later on where she gets quite involved in construction work. Was it building a table or something?
DIY, yeah, building
DIY.
Because now I'm thinking, which episode is that? Frasier is off doing something.
I can't remember. But something similar to that.
It's
kind of plot.
Frasier has Spokane. It's when Frasier and Roz go to do the episode in Spokane.
But something like that, where it's Daphne and Niles are helping with the kite, and they're kind of butting heads on what things should be. Like, I think that would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
But here it's kind of they agree to build it together. They agree on a design. Is it Fafner?
Fafner.
Siegfried's dragon nemesis, I think. I don't know what opera or play or whatever that's from.
The Ring Cycle.
Is the Ring Cycle, okay.
The Ring of the Nibelungen.
The Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
I don't know.
Siegfried. No.
Yeah. The drag. Yeah. There's no conflict really.
Yeah.
They don't butt heads on building the kite. They just kind of.
It's Niles wants to fly
it, but is bad at flying it.
Yeah, and Martin's trying to help him out until he can get good enough to do it. It's just boring. It's just we're stuck between a plot where Frasier is just being an awful human being and just a really dull, boring plot, and it just doesn't. It does nothing for me. This episode, it's just so. I would say skippable. If not for John Glenn.
Yeah.
I think he's easily the highlight of this episode.
He's the only reason that I didn't give it a 1.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
He's not a great actor, but you kind of forgive him because he is quite funny, and the whole bit with his aliens, but about seeing the aliens and then coming in and taking the tape away from Roz when he realizes it was recorded is all very well done, and very obviously it's not realistic, but it feels very realistic in the way that he's portraying it, which I think is quite funny.
I like people like that being able to kind of joke about themselves.
Yeah, just poke fun at
clearly
themselves.
Not taking himself too seriously.
Who were we talking? Was it on the podcast we were talking about that a couple of episodes back?
Might have been.
I can't remember. I'm sure we were talking about someone and poking fun at themselves for being. I can't remember who it would have been. I'm trying to think. Like Larry King, that was back in season 5. Who have we had more recently? Have we had anyone appearing as exaggerated versions of themselves?
I can't think.
I can't remember. Maybe it was one of the many tangents we go off on.
Probably.
Talking about something else.
Probably.
But yeah, so you gave it a 2.
I gave it a 2.
I gave it a 2. I gave it a 2. Yeah, pretty much same reason. Frasier's just it's not often that Frasier is actively hated. I think there's a lot of episodes where I just dislike him, and I think he's pretty unseemly and just gross in some occasions. But here, I really actively hate what he's doing because he's bullying Roz. He's totally gaslighting her into believing she's in the wrong.
Yeah,
and he's absolutely fine when it's not the case at all. And I just very
frustrating.
Yeah, don't like it. Don't like it at all. And that's why I will move on now.
Yeah. Well, there was a guest caller.
Oh, okay.
We need to pick up on the guest callers when we have them because there are so rarely
Interrupt me.
guest callers at this point.
Raise your hand.
He was
in front of the class, and I will pick you out.
There was a caller called Fred who had a fear of intimacy. I can't actually even remember what the specific joke was. I don't even know if it was particularly funny, but he was voiced by Harold Prince, who was a stage director on various Broadway musicals, like West Side Story and Cabaret, Phantom of the Opera, and then he worked on a lot of the kind of film adaptations of the of like those plays as well.
Do you think he's won any actual Tony Awards?
He probably has.
He might have done.
I would say almost certainly has.
Yeah. Good for him.
I don't know anything about musicals, so I can't say for certain.
It Takes Two to Tangle is the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
We've got kind of, it's a plot that very much starts one way and kind of sidelines into something else. We've got Frasier and Niles, who have had a call from, I think, is it Frasier he's on the committee to save the Bryce Academy, their high school, prep school.
Prep school?
Prep school.
I don't know what prep school is.
Is
that like
prior to high school, is it not?
Is that like
middle school?
Middle school?
I think, in America.
Yeah.
Our American listeners can point out if we're wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry.
The education system's quite a bit different.
We have two schools.
Especially, I can never remember because they've got like all the names for the high school. You've got like junior, sophomore,
junior high,
senior.
Oh, like
the three. The names for. I can never remember which is which and like how it corresponds to ours.
Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Yeah,
is the order. But it's 4 years, and there's middle school, and there's also junior high. Is junior high between middle school and high school? That'd be 4 schools. That's not right.
It could
surely.
Maybe
that can't be right. I don't know.
Let us know if we're wrong. Let us know,
because I
probably are.
Can't be bothered googling it. I'll be honest.
I mean, we can Google it after the show's finished.
I can
after we're done recording, but by then. The knowledge will be lost.
Yes.
Only we shall know.
Like a fart in the wind. So the Bryce Academy is going to get torn down.
Yep.
Frasier and Niles are desperately trying to fundraise. The only thing that they can do left is throw a cocktail party and invite all of their rich friends and try and convince them
to
donate money.
Yep.
And then everyone is poor. Everyone is out of money. Because they're going through bad divorces or they've had losses in the stock market. Yeah. And what is someone sunk all of their money into a new boat, which sank? Which is a really funny line.
Yeah.
And then their last hope is Penelope Janvier. Played by Barbara Babcock.
Who I didn't recognize,
quite well,
I have to admit.
She was in Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Was she Dr. Quinn?
She wasn't.
Oh.
Jane Seymour was Dr. Quinn.
Oh, I like Jane Seymour.
Yeah.
She's very attractive.
Yeah. She was Dr. Quinn.
Okay.
And
I didn't actually know that.
Somebody else. She was in Salem's Lot, Barbara Babcock.
The original?
Yeah, the late 70s, the TV miniseries.
That's not very good.
Is it not? I've actually not. I remember watching it when I was really young, and I don't think I've not watched it since.
It's okay.
I read the book recently. I really like the book.
It's fine.
I think the book's great.
It's a bit weird.
It is. It is weird. Anyway, yeah. So she comes in, and before they get a chance to ask her for money, she has to leave, but not before agreeing to go out on a date with Martin.
Mm-hmm.
So now Martin is the in for Penelope Janvier's money.
Yep. And then Martin decides that he wants to shop around.
He does.
Goes out for a date with Penelope, and then he goes by... Was it McGinn? No, it was a cop. He starts telling the story, and Frasier and Niles interrupt him. Mm-hmm. He wants to go and get... Is it like chili
fries?
Chili fries. McGinty's have chili fries, and the ones from McGinty's are great, but there's a coffee shop next door, and the ones next door do better chili fries, so he went to the coffee shop instead.
Yeah.
He's telling the story like really like erratically.
And he meets Estelle, who works at the coffee shop.
Yep. She's a bit more freewheeling. We only have one scene with her, but she seems a lot more like chill and relaxed, and she uses words like going to the John, which is, I guess, how you
Mm-hmm.
define a more casual,
Yeah.
quote unquote lower class person through writing, I suppose.
Someone who would be slightly more Martin's usual type.
Yeah, blue collar,
I guess.
blue collar are the word.
Yeah.
Kind of more relaxed, more down to earth,
Mm-hmm.
not these upper class debutantes.
Yeah.
But he has seen Frasier doing it enough times, juggling multiple women, so he knows what not to do.
Yeah. Oh, apparently.
But then the episode kind of just devolves into Martin doing exactly what Frasier would do, which is mixing up their names, mixing up the times when they're supposed to meet, leaving his phone out so when it rings, the other woman picks up. It's filled with so many cliches.
Telling terrible half-assed lies about his phone ringing is actually his alarm to take pills.
To take his pills. And, they go to the, is it no, it's a cocktail party that Penelope is throwing. And the three of them go in. Frasier and Niles weasel their way in by lying to the poor old lady. And they have to, or they're trying to get to her before anything bad happens with Martin. Get some money out of her, and they're almost there. They're so close until she picks up the phone, and it's Estelle, Martin's girlfriend, and it's I would say poor Martin, but this is one of the few episodes that he just brings it on himself. He's just pulling a Frasier.
He is,
but at the same time, right? If they didn't agree that they were exclusive, you're allowed to date around.
Yeah.
If there's no specific exclusivity,
if they're just
in their relationship,
seeing each other.
Yeah.
If they've been on 2 or 3 dates, there's nothing wrong with picking up somebody else.
I guess he made it worse by lying about it all.
Oh, definitely.
If he'd just come clean first off, which is just the story of the Crane's life, I suppose.
Yeah.
All of them could
classic Frasier.
learn from that. I love Penelope's son.
Yeah. William,
who's just throwing guests out left, right, and center.
Really, really funny.
He's. I didn't realize he'd been in so many things. I didn't write his name down.
John Michael Higgins.
He's been in loads of stuff.
He has.
Loads of sitcoms, loads of guest stars, voice acting work. But the thing I know him from is Community. He plays. He plays a professor who's like modeled after Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society. Very it's sort of extravagant and out there, and telling people to go and
live their lives,
like get an ice cream, go and stare at the sky. It's all very absurd, but he is so good in that.
He's really good,
so funny. And I didn't recognize him at first here. Actually, I had to look it up because like he looks familiar, but here he's so grumpy.
Yeah, I always think he looks like a young Fred Willard.
He does.
He looks like Fred Willard, but younger.
He was in Avatar.
Legend of Korra. Yeah, in a good role. And he was in, we mentioned last week with Gary Cole, who played Luke.
Yeah.
He was Harvey Birdman in Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law.
Yeah.
And probably my favorite character in Harvey Birdman is Mentak the Mind-Taker, who is this like supervillain turned judge, and he's like psychic and whatever. Okay. And he's played by John Michael Higgins.
All right. Okay.
He's Mentak the Mind-Taker. He's so funny.
I need to
Harvey
watch,
Birdman is.
I need to watch Harvey Birdman. I've only seen bits and pieces of it.
When it gets towards the end, a lot of these like Adult Swim shows all kind of fall into the same trap of just becoming completely self-referential and just going totally off the rails and completely absurd. And Harvey Birdman is like that, where like by the end of the original run, it was just like it didn't make any sense and it wasn't funny anymore.
Okay.
But early on, when it was all like the guest stars were like the old Hanna-Barbera characters, and they did like a parody of The Sopranos, but with the Flintstones.
Okay.
It's so stupid. Like what's the name of the strip club in The Sopranos?
Bada Bing.
Yeah, it's called Dabba-Doo. It's so silly. it's such a funny show. Harvey Birdman's hilarious.
That's really good.
And John Michael Higgins is like the best character in it. He's Mentak the Mind-Taker. Anyway, yeah. So and he's really good in this. So William is
great in this as well.
He hates everyone coming and asking his mother for
because she's
money.
known to be a bit of a pushover and
like she's known
easily
for being
influenced
a philanthropist and
donating money to unworthy causes, as he puts it.
And it's just the way that he's throwing people out. And Niles distracts him by saying that he overheard one of the waiters saying that he was trying to finance a one-man show.
Yeah.
And then he's like, which one of you is trying to get a play financed? And they all put their hands up. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No, it's a funny little scene, and he's great. Penelope's a little bit boring.
Yeah,
I'm afraid to say she doesn't get much to work with, to be fair. And I think the rest of the episode as well, it's not totally out of character for Martin. He has kind of been known to play the field a bit and go on his kind of cheeky sprees, but he seems a bit off in this episode. He seems a bit too far. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. He feels like he's pushing his luck a bit too much than he would normally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's...
Are you thinking of Daddy's Got a Big Appetite?
A little bit, yeah.
Is that what you're laughing at?
I was actually... Yeah, I'm just thinking about like various other jokes that just work well in the episode. Like, it's funny seeing Martin in that role instead of Frasier, because we see Frasier do it a few times and it starts to get a bit stale. And I feel like it would be totally out of character for someone like Niles to be doing it. But
I mean, at this point, definitely.
At this point. Oh, yeah, well, of course, yeah, with Daphne. But just in general, you could never really see a plot like that with Niles. But then it works well with Martin, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a little B plot that I find very funny with Roz trying to impress a single dad at at Alice's school by pretending that she bakes. She just goes into Cafe Nervosa and buys
all the goodies,
buys all of the brownies and the lemon bars. And
what is it? Is good? Is it not goodies? She says
I'm bringing the goodies.
Bringing the goodies. She's wearing a very low cut dress.
Yeah.
And Niall says, "Oh, be careful not to get them sunburnt."
Yeah,
I love their dialogue, man.
They're always so funny,
joking at each other, so good. And yeah, Roz is very attractive and cut dresses. Very.
And I think this is probably the first appearance of James, the waiter.
Is it the first appearance?
I think this is the first time he's appeared.
He's probably the only other recurring waiter after Loch Harry, in the first few seasons, isn't he? Because he's there until the end. Actually,
right,
I think
the very end. Yeah. He never has any lines or doesn't get named, but there is one of the characters in Frasier that has appeared in the most episodes outside of the main cast is I want to say he's Joe Cosimano. Is the name of the actor? I would need to double check. But he's one of those, like, as soon as you know to look for him, he's in like every other episode.
Oh, really?
As this like
is he a waiter?
Unnamed waiter in Cafe
Nervosa.
Nervosa. Yeah. And he's in it throughout the whole show. But he never gets any dialogue.
Oh, okay. How would you... I wonder what the deal was there.
I don't know.
How would you get a role like that as an extra for the majority of an 11-year show, but not get any dialogue? What would be the circumstances where you would get that role?
I'm not sure. I know that one of the reasons that... Oh God, I can't remember his name. The guy that played Gunther in Friends, who's like the guy that runs the coffee shop.
Can't remember.
One of the reasons that he got that role is because he had, I think at the time that he was cast, was like a manager of a coffee shop and had worked as a barista.
Oh, really?
So it's not impossible that they might have just gone, oh, we need an extra with barista experience.
Oh, who's actually able
to realistically look like you're working in a cafe, and they just kept bringing him back.
I guess that would make sense. Yeah. Okay.
Who knows?
How do you feel about It Takes Two to Tangle?
I quite enjoy It Takes Two to Tangle.
Really?
I do. I give it a 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that a lot more than you would give it?
That's about double more than what I would give it.
Oh. Yeah, no, I think I think especially the scene with the kind of cocktail party at the end is really funny with John Michael Higgins and Niles sort of trying to distract him, and there's just a bit that always cracks me up is when he runs right the way around the room to try and intercept William again, and then pretends to faint into his arms. That is just so funny, and that earns it at least 2 points, frankly. So yeah, I just give it a 4. I don't think it's amazing. I think it very easily could have slipped down to a 3, but I'm feeling generous, so it's kind of 4.
It's not often you feel generous. I'll take it.
That's true.
No, I nah, not for me. I don't like seeing Martin do these kind of things. I like when Martin's played as sort of the good cop to Frasier's bad cop. I like when he's the reasonable one in the episode and the most down to earth.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I feel like he is just pushing his boundaries a little bit too far, and it feels a bit unnatural for him. Uncharacteristic, I suppose.
Yeah.
And other than that, there's not, like, the stuff with William's pretty funny, and yeah, there's a bit of that physical acting and whatnot, but other than that, there's not a huge amount of humor in the episode, and it just, the plot I don't really care, like, it's their old high school that's gonna get sold off, and I'm like, well, maybe it's time for it to be sold off. I don't know, man, like, it just doesn't gel with me. Just yeah.
Fair enough.
Not for me. Any guest stars?
No, outside Barbara Babcock and John Michael Higgins.
Of course, the one that I actually remember and the one that I ask you if there's any guest stars, there's no guest stars.
Yeah.
Any in the next one, so I know to ask.
Well, there is a guest star, but no guest caller.
No guest callers, okay. That's fine. Forgotten but not gone. Final episode on the disc. We've got yet another episode in this disc where Frasier is just the worst.
Yeah.
And, like, worse than the worst. Once again, he kind of goes out of his way not only to be totally unseemly towards other characters, but to actually, like, again, like, gaslight them and properly make others feel like it's their fault for him being a crappy person, which just, it's so hard to watch. It's really just awful. We had the episode last season, Wine Club, where Mel convinces Niles to go for the Corkmaster. And this kind of is sort of a semi-sequel to that.
Yeah.
Where he obviously took Frasier's place. He was elected ahead of Frasier because he rightfully won the role. And then in this episode, we've got him retaining that after the next election, and he beat Frasier after the 4th recount. Frasier finally concedes, and we start the episode with Niles doing his, like, inauguration speech, and it's quite funny. It's like he's, like, awarding the role to himself again as outgoing and then as incoming. It's really good. And then Frasier comes and interrupts, knowing what he's doing. He comes and interrupts Niles. He then interrupts the middle of his speech and pretends not to know what's going on, and then says, oh, well, I've got some important news of my own, and steps up and then takes his place on the podium to announce his news. And his news is that he is resigning from the club and basically trying to take the audience of the club into a new radio show, or a new segment of the radio show, and just completely overshadow Niles. And it's so cruel and unnecessary and bitter.
Yeah.
He lost this election fairly.
He's so salty.
And he can't take it. So he does whatever he can to ruin Niles' passion. He says later in the episode how much that role means to him. And Frasier's just interrupting everything. And yeah, just for the rest of the episode, Frasier's just trying to undercut Niles, and Niles has none of it. He prevents his group, the wine club, from calling into Frasier's new show, a little segment at the end of Gil Chesterton's, and that causes Frasier to again go on like another jealous rampage against Niles, and then he complains to Martin, and finally it ends with Martin bringing the boys back together by basically guilt-tripping Niles into letting Frasier back into the club after he resigned of his own free will.
Yeah.
And it's so horrible to watch. I feel so sorry for Niles again in this episode, because he did nothing to deserve that. He won everything fair and square. He was following the rules. Frasier decided he'd made a mistake and then bitterly got Martin involved. And then everyone starts making fun of them. So they both decide to leave the club.
Yeah.
It's really horrible watching Frasier kind of devolve, because he's not been this bad up until now.
No.
And obviously earlier in this disc, we've had a couple of instances of it, and then this disc as well, actively like playing the victim and guilting others into apologizing for his bad behavior. It's sick. Like, it's really gross behavior.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of if it gets worse or if it gets better, but I can't think of any other instances like this off the top of my head that are coming up. But I want to keep an eye on that, because last disc we had his meeting with his old mentor, and that was supposed to be his like catharsis and realization that he needs to be a better person and needs to change his ways. And then we've got all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, he doesn't learn. He never learns. It's awful. And I hate it.
Yeah. As you should.
Yeah. I didn't have the heart to give this episode a 1 because I think it has some good moments. I think the wine club are really funny. The other members of the wine club. There's the guy who always says seconded just to get like just to rile people up, which is really funny whenever there's emotion going. And then there's the other guy who just comes there to drink. And keeps making comments to that effect. And I think those bits are really good. Gil and his producer Lance,
they're very funny.
Two very camp, very ostensibly closeted men.
Yeah.
They just make for a good Joe. I think
we're going out on the town. Lock up your daughters.
Yeah, it's so good. And so those little bits and pieces are kind of funny. So I didn't want to give it a 1, but again, it's Frasier's behavior that's bringing the episodes down. It really is. Like, they're actively ruining episodes and the enjoyment of episodes for me. Going back through it. Jennifer Coolidge is a guest star in this episode. She comes in to replace Daphne as the physical healthcare worker. I don't know about you, but I can't stand Jennifer Coolidge in anything.
Okay.
I'm sure she's a lovely person. I see that she's very active in certain like terms of charity support and LGBTQ and everything like that, and she's very left-leaning and forward-focused and great. I'm sure she's a great person. Every single one of her characters who I've ever seen in anything are insufferable. Yeah. I hate her voice. I hate her behavior. I hate the humor that she produces. I just hate her in everything. And apparently, that's a really uncommon opinion.
I like Jennifer Coolidge.
Do you?
I do. I understand finding her a bit annoying. I think that definitely is part of the character that she always plays. That's like the very kind of squeaky voice and the very overbearing personality that she is kind of supposed to be annoying and a bit grating. Yeah. So I can definitely see why you would not like her. Personally, she's the reason that I didn't give this a 1.
Oh, really?
Because I really like her character. I think she's so funny. She's supposedly German.
Not even close. That accent is not even close.
But it is really funny. Yeah.
No, I can't stand her, honestly, in anything. Like, everything I've seen online, everybody loves her. Everyone thinks she's like an icon and just amazing and everything. And I'm like, I watched that, like this episode in particular, just this awful, high-pitched, as you say, supposedly German accent. I don't know what she thinks Germans sound like, but it's just awful. And she's just like, she's supposed to be like, I don't know, funny, like comedic relief in the episode, but she just gets on my nerves. Every time she's on screen, I'm like, just shut up, just leave. I hate you, man. So yeah, but as I say, I'm sure in real life she's a lovely person. That's what they mean when they say separate art from the artist. Yeah. Not the other thing. Not the other thing. No, this is what they should mean. No. You can criticize the characters. You don't have to criticize the. Well, I know. I mean, and it's the other way around in real life. Usually, people tend to criticize the people, but they're like, "Oh no, but I love the characters." Yeah. Let's not get into that. No, it's too late in the episode for us to start a conversation on that. Yeah, it's too late. We don't want to get into it. Okay, I take it you giving it a relatively low score as well then. So I give it a 2. Yeah, I did as well. I find, I mean, Niles is definitely the victim here, but I hate seeing the two of them like revert back to acting like children. That's a trope that I hate. Anytime I see it, it makes my skin crawl. Yeah. Is this like grown adults getting in trouble and reverting back to this like, oh, he started it, and like bickering and you ever watched Step Brothers? Acting like like no, I've not. But it's that like Will Ferrell, just absolute like man-child garbage. It grosses me out, and I can't stand it. Yeah, and it makes me really hate watching this episode. And the one thing that I like watching about it is Jennifer Coolidge as Frederica. That's really funny. I think she's really funny. Picture you as someone who would. It's not so much that I especially love Jennifer Coolidge. I just think I think she is good in this. I don't know why. I just expected you to have the same opinion as me. No, I think she's a lot of fun in. What else has she been in? Legally Blonde. She's good in Legally Blonde. Cinderella Story. Two Broke Girls. She's done a couple of things recently. She's more serious roles. She was in is it called The White Lotus? Maybe. A relatively new series that's apparently really good. I have no idea what it's about. I've seen it. A few people mention it as apparently very good. And she's in a new Ryan Murphy series, the American Horror Story guy, called The Watcher. And apparently that's like sort of semi-thriller horror. Maybe. So I can't picture her doing anything more serious. Like she's so typecast and I think a lot of it probably is her like playing that character more than that just being what she is like. Yeah. But she probably hasn't been given much of an opportunity. Like you say, she's typecast. Yeah. I've never really watched American Pie. That was the thing. Oh, she's really like Stifler's mom. That's like what she became known as. Yeah. This like the stereotypical like MILF character. But I don't think I've ever seen an American Pie film. I kind of like those kind of early 2000s stoner comedy style films. You just have to switch off your brain and just enjoy the stupid, gross out humor. Like I think the only thing that I've seen with like other than knowing that she's in it, she isn't quite as exaggerated in that as she is in other things. She isn't doing the whole like squeaky voice thing in American Pie, is she? No. She's not. Yeah, she's supposed to be playing it a little bit more straight. The hot mum. Yeah. In it. Yeah. Either way. Oh well. Split down the middle on Jennifer Coolidge. I didn't expect that. There's a really good series. This is definitely going off on a tangent. There's a really good series called Make Some Noise that's put out by Dropout, which is like part of College Humor. All right. But it's like this kind of like improv comedy type thing where they have like 3 people on and they get them to do whatever. And one of the prompts that I saw recently was Jennifer Coolidge as a flight traffic controller.
And it's like people like doing impressions of various characters.
And
I can't remember I didn't see who it was that was doing it, but doing Jennifer Coolidge as a flight traffic controller was really funny. They had an episode with Sung Won Cho as Werner Herzog playing Spider-Man, which was really, really funny. Yeah.
I'm not gonna try it.
So silly. But yes. There you go.
There we go. Those are the 6 episodes for this week's disc episode. It's episodes within episodes.
Episodes within episodes.
Worlds within worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, you don't watch Community.
I've seen some Community.
Yeah, but not enough.
I've seen the first I thought I've seen most of it.
We keep coming back to Community. I really think we should watch it.
Nah. I can't stand it because I can't stand Chevy Chase.
He's so good in it. He's
the worst.
He's the worst, but the best. Like he's the best at being the worst.
No.
Keith David's in the later episodes.
I like Keith David.
We love Keith David.
I do like Keith
Who
David.
doesn't love Keith David? He's in. Sorry, we're just rambling now. We're just chatting now.
Yeah.
The new Shudder 101
Yeah.
greatest horror
Yeah.
episodes. He's one of the
talking heads.
One of the talking heads. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is Joe Latruglio,
Yes.
which is strange,
I've
but
been-
I love it.
I've been watching it. I've been enjoying it.
I really, yeah.
Oh God, no! But then we got to the people. I had to skip past it, and then I stopped watching. They started talking about Gerald's game, and the bit when she's handcuffed.
I had to look away.
Oh God! Oh,
Have you watched Gerald's game?
I've not seen it.
Mate, that is a really, really unsettling film.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I'm definitely not watching it now. Now that I've seen.
Did you know what happened?
I didn't. I knew what the film was about.
Okay.
I didn't know that specifically happened
Right.
in
Okay.
it. And watching that has made me never want to watch Gerald's game ever.
Anyone listening who does not know what Gerald's game is, please, and I mean this sincerely, I am not being facetious, do not Google what degloving is.
Oh God. Ugh.
Because you will not be happy and it will ruin your day.
If you're the kind of person that can handle knowing what that is, you probably already know.
You probably
what
know what it is. Yeah.
So if you don't know what it is, don't Google it.
Yeah. We need to start a horror podcast, man.
We are.
We're cutting into our Frasier time
That's
with horror chat.
almost certainly what we are going to be doing as soon as Frasier is finished.
Yeah. But before we do, give me your highlights.
Oh God, I don't know.
Any from this disc?
To be honest, it's probably Niles fainting. It's probably Niles
fainting?
falling into William's
Right.
arms.
Yeah.
Or maybe the end of that episode I always find really funny when they finally, even after Martin's been found out, Penelope gives them a check after all, and then they realize that it's a check for only $50, and they're like, "Oh well, it's better than nothing." And then they knock over a vase on their way out, and it smashes, and they just put the check down and walk out. That's funny.
That is good. I went very boring because it is a highlight. It is the best thing about this disc, I think, and it's Niles' half-court shot.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know it's amazing. It's not a unique highlight by any means, but it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so unique as well because we don't often get those like sort of slow-mo shots or the montages or stuff. We're more often than not, we are stuck to just, as you say, like 3-camera sitcom, and that's that. There's not that much unique. Although in saying that, we've had sliding doors. This disc we had. Is it the first disc of the season? Alan Tudyk with what's the episode called?
The Great Crane Robbery.
The Great Crane Robbery. Sorry, yeah. When we have the montage with classical gas over the top, like so, we're getting bits here and there.
They're clearly going a bit more out there.
Yeah. They're exploring,
which is interesting.
Yeah. The half-court shot is so good though. Love it. Well, don't know if you have anything more to say.
I don't think so.
On this fine recording day.
No.
We'll not expose ourselves to how soon, how often we record and how close it is to when we actually release the episodes.
Yeah.
I'm sure people can figure it out by the topics that we discuss. Anyway. Well then, have a great day. Good mental health. And thank you for listening. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.